All right, it is 6:05. I'd like to welcome everyone to the September 8, 2014 school board meeting. Jimmy, can we get a roll call of members, please? Mr. Smazel, do you have verification of public notice? Yes, we do. Okay. On to the agenda. Do you have any corrections and or deletions to the agenda?
I have a request that we make 10-1 or 10-A, B, C, and D a roll call vote along with 12-A.
12A would normally be a roll call, so that's fine. That would be. So then you're looking to split the consent agenda?
I don't think you have to split it and then break it out in 4 sections. The whole thing is a roll call. However you want to do that.
Now let's just do the whole thing as a roll call vote then. So hopefully that's actually a change to it. So we just pass it. Looking for a motion then to. Motion to approve the agenda. Looking for a second? Second. Second, Renona. On to section 8, public comments. Sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we're on to section 8. Muggs McFadden. And if you come to the podium, please, that'd be great.
Dougie, is that mic live?
That one should be on, yeah.
Hi. I talked to Mr. Renata about this, and he said he thought the board would benefit would benefit from hearing my thoughts on this subject. Can you hear me? No. The lights on. No, it's obviously not on.
It's not on. Flip this.
Testing. Reminds me of that time.
Okay, now can you hear me? Okay, I want to talk about college preparedness as it relates to what happens in the schools and how prepared kids are for college. I'll start with a little biography. of my sister, who got her doctorate in chemistry from Northwestern University, first taught at the University of Illinois, taught at the University of Puerto Rico, at the University of Oslo, at Cambridge University, and then at Cornell University, and finally ended her career at the University of Texas as Dean of the School of Science. In all her years of teaching, she noticed a trend that as children graduated from high school and went on to college, they were not prepared in many subjects, and they had to have remedial studies in order to make it, most especially in English and math. And many colleges have added these courses to their curriculum, but it's getting to be very epidemic, and it's costing the taxpayers money, and it's costing the parents more money, because they have to take remedial classes in order to get ready for math, etc. Now, my sister taught chemistry, and she said there were many kids who didn't understand the algebraic concepts enough to know how to balance a equation when they got into Chemistry 101. Now, I don't think any of Jerry Bosa's students didn't know how to do that, but many do when they get to the universities. And so, because I know that this is true, I'm going to tell you that the Common Core is not an evil thing. It is something that is going to help all these students get ready and prepared for any university that they go to. So please, when you're talking about what curriculum we have here, I think that Common Core is a good thing. We'll prepare our students to not be able to go straight into classes and not have to take remedial courses in math and English in order to succeed at what they're going to do at college. Thank you.
Thank you, Bugs. Next up, we have Nikki Arati.
Good evening. I am a parent of 3 children, one who has graduated from KHS and 2 who are currently students here. I'm not a resident of this district. I have chosen to bring my children to Kewaskum School District because I know firsthand the great things that happen here every single day. I am also a teacher at KMS. More specifically, I'm a 7th and 8th grade science teacher. That said, there have been 2 times in my career when I've been asked to teach language arts. The first time was about 8 years ago. At that time, we were expected to follow the Wisconsin state standards. These standards proved to be confusing and vague. While I did my best, and I'm certain my students learned their reading and writing skills improved, I can't honestly say that I'm sure I hit those standards as they were written. I knew what I wanted my kids to accomplish, and I had a good idea what the state expected, so that's what I tried to do. The second time I was asked to teach language arts was last year. This time, I was expected to align my teaching to the Common Core standards. I can honestly say that this time, not only am I confident that my students met or exceeded those standards are clear, concise, and to the point. I knew exactly what I was expected to accomplish. And you know what? Those standards were right in line with what I would have expected my students to be able to perform. I've heard concerns voiced about these standards not being good enough. We can have something better than these. We want our students to be able to surpass these standards. I can assure you this is already happening. I have read and researched the standards. I've looked for resources to teach the standards. I've watched students work hard to achieve these standards. Are there students who struggled to reach them? You bet. Are there students who flew through them with flying colors? Of course. This community needs to know that we are working for all of our kids. We have implemented interventions to close the gap for those that perform lower than expected. We're challenging kids who are right where they should be to go further. And those that are already surpassing the expectations are being continuously challenged to move to the next level. I've heard some concerns that it wasn't teachers or educators who wrote the standards and that the federal government shouldn't be controlling what we do. I think these statements open the door to political ends of this debate. I will not pretend to understand politics at all. It isn't how I think. What I know is kids and how to get them to learn and grow. I don't care who wrote the standards. I've read them, and I think they're challenging, reasonable, and lead us down a road of having college-ready and career-ready students. If they didn't, then I'd probably understand the concern over who wrote them. Given that they seem to serve their purpose, the author just doesn't seem to matter much. I also know that we live in a very transient society. We have kids coming to us from other states, other districts, all the time. We have kids leaving us all the time. Wouldn't it be nice if I knew that every student who comes to my classroom has the same basic starting point, and that every student that leaves my classroom will be on the track to succeed no matter where they go? My last and possibly most significant point is this. We have a problem. It is a problem bigger than we here in Kewaskum can deal with on our own. Our nation is in trouble. We have fallen behind on an international level. Our kids will need to compete for jobs, not just within our community or our state, but in a world market. We need them to be ready for that. In order to put the United States at the forefront of education, we have to do something significantly different than what we have in the past. I personally believe that the Common Core state standards are a step in that direction. They measure our students' success against an international scale. I anticipate that we'll struggle with this in the beginning. In fact, I'm braced for news that is not good when we test for the first time. I truly believe we will make progress in the coming years. Many of the top performing educational systems in the world, places like Singapore, Japan, and Finland, have not only national educational standards, but a national curriculum. Will Common Core be the single solution to making the United States a leader in education? Probably not by itself, but perhaps it's a piece in a very complicated puzzle. The Common Core is not the enemy. It's merely a tool and a first step to try and make us move in a better, more competitive direction. Every one of us wants the same thing for our children. We want to provide them with the skills they need to succeed in that great big world we will ultimately be sending them off to. While it's important for us as parents to stay informed, monitor progress, and continue to research, we also need to have a certain element of faith in the professionals we have entrusted with our children. After all, they have the kids of this community at heart. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to the consent agenda.
I didn't sign a paper to talk, but I'd like to speak a little bit.
Well, then, go to the point.
Okay, I don't have any,
Excuse me, what is your name?
Tom Walsh. All my kids graduated from this school. I have 4 kids. I lived in this community 40 years. You know, first time I ever been to school board. First time I ever felt I had to. That's a reflection on you guys. It's like this one teacher that was here. Oh, she knew what to do. Everything was written for her down there. All she had to do was follow it. No thought press, no thought whatsoever. She just had to follow the rule book. All these teachers complain when the classes got big, they didn't have time for those students that needed special attention because every child learns differently. There was a basic thing about big classrooms. We don't have the time to spend with these kids to get through them. We need the time. Now you can put 100 kids in a classroom, teach them all one way. The kids that have trouble learning are going to fall. The kids that it comes easy to are going to pick up and go. And they're not going to excel. They're going to be mediocre. I'm from America. We always were the best. We always strive to be the best. We were never world standard. We were better than world standard. I don't see where you guys are coming from. Our education was the best. In the 50s, they turned it around. In 1998, we wrote the last effect. It was really wrong. That was Kennedy that wrote that one. And Bush put it in place. You know, I expect more from you guys. I don't expect mediocre standards. I expect something better. I'm from Wisconsin. I do better than that. Where are you guys coming from? I don't understand it. Where's the American spirit? You're killing it. I don't understand. Somebody explain to me. Why is mediocre good enough for us now? Why is the world standard, socialist standard, why is that good enough for us? Why? I'm appalled that one of the school board resigned because she was against you. Come along, get along, go along. Is that the attitude? You don't need brains for that. You don't need a thought process. You don't need critical thinking. That's what this school always did. I'm sorry, I'm upset. 40 years I've been in this community. You know what? And it's the first time the school board has let me down. All my kids went to college. I shouldn't say all of them. They got master's degrees. They came out of the school, they were qualified. They didn't have to take mediocre. They tested out of their foreign languages and everything. And now we're going to settle for that. I'm sorry to see that. I can go on and on. These are world standards. This is corporation gone amok. Bill Gates, Pearson, both of you guys know all those names. I don't have to explain to you. They're going to make billions and billions out of this. They're going to push it. You bet they are. Bill Gates spends over $500 million, I've heard of last request, that he spent pushing this program. If it's so good, why do you have to spend that much money to push it? You ever think of that? Where's your guys' thought process? I'm not done here. I'm going to be the biggest activist you guys ever seen in this town.
Okay, thank you for your words. The part that you're missing was that, you can have a seat, please.
Why did they rebuttal it?
You don't get to.
Oh, okay. It's not.
The part you don't understand. The part that you're missing is part of our curriculum here in Kewaskum. We have the STAR testing, we have the assessment tools, we have the interventions, we have the ELT, we have AP classes and we have tech classes, so that we're not serving one level. This is not the dollar here. This is customized curriculum. Thank you.
I'll respect that.
Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. I'm looking to do it all at once. If you have an issue with that. Okay. So looking for a motion. Mary and Trey. Looking for a roll call.
Mr. Webster?
No.
Mrs. Sumar? Yes. Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Maravano?
Yes.
Mr. Sept?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoffman? Yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes. Okay, consent agenda passed. We're on to community engagement, student learning, Ms. Exotic.
I think we're going to ask the board to have a seat in the front row because we're going to lower the screen and we have the PowerPoint presentation.
I figured you guys want to see the front of it instead of the back of it, so just the way that this kind of works. I'm not going to use the podium because it seemed really weird just talking to nobody up there, so I'm going to face out to you guys. I hope that's okay. Yeah, I got a quick little presentation. Doug's going to help me out here and turn on the projector. I'm very excited Got a couple of pictures of the first day of school. Also, want to invite everybody, we're going to have a curriculum night for the district on September 22nd from 6:30 until 8 o'clock. An opportunity for you community members and for parents to be able to come in, be able to talk to teachers. We're going to have all grade levels and departments there. If you want to see what the books that we're using, see the resources that we've got, this is kind of your opportunity to be able to come, be able to have conversations with teachers about that as well. So it should be a great night. That'll be at the field house. So if anybody's interested in coming, we just wanted to invite everybody here to that. So hey, and apparently I have a board meeting starting at 6 o'clock today. So. There we go. Awesome. Thanks, Doug. Apparently I've got this thing with technology. It just doesn't like me very much. All right. So here's some pictures of first day of school. I'm going to go through these real quickly, but I was just so excited. The first day of school was fantastic. I just want to say to the board members, those of you guys who were able to come the first day of school, that was so awesome to see you guys there. The kids responded, the teachers responded. That was just so cool. So you're going to notice in a lot of our elementary classes that you're going to see some different stations set up, some reading stations, some writing stations. You've got some conferring stations over here. So that's part of our new literacy push that we're doing this year. So you might see some different setups in some rooms to really kind of facilitate that individualized instruction. This one's from Wayne, right? Is that Angie and oh, sorry, that's the K2 classroom. Okay, K2 classroom there. And this is a first grade class doing a read aloud. I think it was something like Bob Goes to School. Is that right? Bob Goes to School. It was a good read aloud. I was able to participate. So you can see that they're all looking at that. Who's that strange guy over there taking a picture with his phone? This is kind of a cool program that we've got at the high school where we actually have upperclassmen coming in doing some mentoring for some of our freshmen during their homeroom on that first day of school, so that was kind of cool to see. You're going to see a lot more of these anchor charts in classrooms too. Some of you guys might have gone into some elementary classrooms and thought, that looks a little bare on the walls. One of the things that we really want to do is we want to co-construct our classroom with the students, and so part of that is creating these anchor charts with the students. This particular one talks a little bit about what is independent reading, what does the teacher do, what does the student do. So you'll see a lot more of those in classrooms. Here's just a quick shot of some math instruction. I think it's the second grade doing math mountains, learning how to add and subtract using math mountains. And again, that small group individual attention to students as they work through problems. So some cool things going on. KES, going through the lunchroom procedures, policies that first day of school. So some cool stuff. We already talked a little bit about curriculum night, so I'm going to kind of flip through that quickly here. So the second part of the presentation is really one of the things I said I wanted to do is I really wanted to address some of the questions that community members had. And so I kind of opened it up. If anybody wanted to email me or meet with me, we had a form on the website. We had some people call, had some great questions. So I'm going to kind of go through these quickly. If anybody wants to look at these, we'll put these up on the website tomorrow, so you can go back and you can take a look at the presentation. So if I'm moving a little too quickly, you can kind of revisit it. And of course, I do want to open myself again up to anybody who wants to come in to sit down or call or email. I had a great conversation today with a parent of an elementary school student, and it was just, I just love having those dialogues. So please, by all means, make sure that if you've got questions or concerns, give me a call. The questions kind of came into three different categories. Some questions dealt with the Common Core state standards, some dealt with the state testing, and some of them dealt with that whole notion of the data collection. So that's kind of how I broke them out when I'm going to talk about them here tonight. Some questions have been combined, so there might be a couple of people who had very similar questions, so I kind of combined their questions together and then kind of created an answer for them if they're kind of a similar answer to them. So. One of the first questions were, what exactly is the Common Core and what isn't it? And this has been kind of an interesting thing for me to hear. People use that term Common Core as sort of this inclusive term to kind of encompass sort of the umbrella of all the changes that have happened in education in 4 years. And it really doesn't address what the Common Core state standards are. So when we talk about the Common Core state standards, what we're really saying is it's a list of expectations for what students should be able to do and know by grade level. And it just addresses the English language arts and math. And if anybody, you can go online, you can download them, here's a copy of them if anybody wants to take a look at them. But really, it's just a list of things that we want students to be able to know and do in math and English language arts. And I put an example on there. For example, in 4th grade, we expect students to be able to measure angles and whole number degrees using a protractor. Okay? So, I mean, literally, it's a document that's got those kind of listed off for math and for English language arts. In here, it doesn't talk about state or local assessments. It doesn't talk about curriculum or instruction. It doesn't say what kind of textbooks you have to use. It doesn't talk about, I had some people ask me some questions about human growth and development or sex ed. There's nothing in the Common Core State Standards that at all talk about the human growth and development. Doesn't have a list of required text or articles or textbooks, and it doesn't talk at all about data collection. So those are all kind of separate things from the actual standards themselves. So when you talk about Common Core, you're really just talking about those standards and not some of those other things that kind of have been attached to it, because it's kind of fallen under that umbrella because it kind of happened about the same time. Federal government involvement in the Common Core State Standards. The federal government wasn't involved in the actual creation of the Common Core State Standards, but there was a grant called Race to the Top, and Common Core State Standards was a section of that grant. It wasn't the whole thing, but it was a section of it that contributed to some of the states adopting the Common Core State Standards. But it certainly wasn't the whole thing of the Race to the Top grant. How was Wisconsin specifically involved in the writing of the Common Core State Standards? There was a process. If you want to see like the actual individual names of the work groups and the feedback groups, you can actually go to that website right there. You can actually look up the individual people who are part of that. But then also in January 2010, the states got a draft copy that they were able to make comments on. And then in March of 2010, there was another release draft that was given to the public so that they could take a look at it and again give comments on it. So that's kind of how the Wisconsin was involved in the actual standards themselves. So are the standards the same from state to state? Really, it kind of depends on what state that you're in. Not all states adopted the Common Core State Standards. There's still autonomy by states what kind of standards that they want to adopt. They didn't have to, and there's a number of states who didn't. I think there's Texas is an example of one, Virginia was one. So really, and it's only in 2 content areas, English and language arts, that if they did adopt the Common Core State Standards, those are the only ones that actually changed, and so those are the only ones that they have in common. All those other standards, like social studies or science or business, those are all still determined by the states. I did have one person who asked me about that term usually, or that standards are usually determined by the states. And that's because each state handles it differently, and I don't claim to be an expert on all 50 states. So I can tell you for Wisconsin, though, that Wisconsin has established standards for 21 different subject areas. And there's a website that you can go there and you can see what those standards are. How does the Common Core State Standards copyright impact our district? This is an interesting question that's gotten a lot of confusion. When they say that, when the states adopted the Common Core State Standards, there was a provision that they could add up to 15% more standards to the Common Core State Standards. So when you adopted the English, the states could say, you know what, we like all these standards, but we also want this one, and this one added to it. And they could do that up to 15% more. Wisconsin chose not to add any more to it. What that doesn't mean, though, is it doesn't mean that we can't teach above and beyond that. And that seems to be the real confusion. When they talk about the copyright, they're not saying that we can't do things outside the Common Core. It's just that when the state adopted it, they could make more changes than adding 15% to it. But for us as a school district, as long as we're hitting the Common Core for English and math, that doesn't mean that we can't go beyond that. So, and there's no only 15% beyond it. We can go as much beyond it, honestly, as much beyond it as a student can go, really. So, the Common Core doesn't limit us in terms of how hard and how high we can push ourselves for students. And then somebody who did ask me about the TIM standards, which is an international set of standards for math and science. So we haven't actually done any assessments about how our math and science curriculum align to those TIM standards. But they are a good set of standards that I think every 4 years or so they do some testing to see how we align to other countries using those standards. All right, so kind of along with that, do we limit students in just achieving to the standards? The answer to that is no, that's the minimum. Of course, we can set our expectations higher than that. I already talked a lot about it. And then finally, there was a question about students with learning disabilities, and what standards that they use. And it's really just students who are taking alternative testing that use a different set of standards called the Common Core Essential Elements. And of course, students' IEP is what we use to help determine exactly what standards students with disabilities have and don't. So. In terms of costs, there was some costs about the school district sending teachers to staff development workshops to retrain them in order to teach the curriculum lines of the Common Core. And of course, we do a lot of professional development in our district. There's a lot of great research that shows that professional development is a great way to improve student achievement, that when you invest in your teachers, you're investing in your students as well. And we believe strongly in that. Anytime that we have a change in any standards, no matter what they are, we're always going to make sure that our teachers are on top of that. And some of that's going to require some training. So, for example, if those standards change in the future, then we're going to have to do some retraining anyway. So anytime that we have a change in standards, that's really where we have the retraining happening. It doesn't matter what set of standards they are, it doesn't matter what subject it is. We want teachers to be abreast of all the new things that are happening and the new standards that get adopted by the state. There was also a question about the technology that was purchased over the last couple of years and whether that was for Common Core, and the answer to that is no. Most of that money went to upgrading the infrastructure of our buildings, and specifically taking a look at trying to upgrade so that we could have all wireless networking in our buildings. So the Common Core state standards don't say anything in here about having a particular technology or anything like that. So. State and federal testing was the second big area. So there were some questions about the ACT test. In the past, we've always gotten scores from individual students so that we knew where they were for ACT testing and we knew how we were doing as a district. Now that the ACT test is going to be used for 11th graders, then we're going to actually use it for all 11th graders this year. We will get information about how students did on the ACT test. And we use that information to help us inform our instruction. We use that information to gauge how well students are learning. It's one of our benchmarks for college and career readiness, and it's going to continue to be a benchmark for college and career readiness. Already there's 13 states who use the ACT as part of that. Illinois is one, Michigan is another one just in the area around us. Also, there were some questions about federally aligned tests. The NAEP is really the only nationally aligned academic test. And basically the NAEP is sort of a dipstick that they do where they do random sampling of some different schools of different areas, just to kind of see how, as a country, we're doing in different areas, curricular areas. And so you might be in a district that doesn't do any NAEP testing, or you might be in a district that does NAEP testing for 8th grade and for 4th grade, which is the case for us this year. So this year we've been selected to do NAEP testing for 2 different grade levels, but that's kind of random. The other thing about that is that that they don't provide scores for individual students or schools when they do that NAEP testing. That's more of sort of a, I should have got some water or something. I'm not used to talking this much. That's really just a dipstick for how the country is doing it. It's not really about individual scores, so they don't track that. And again, there's a link there for it. There's some questions about opting out of the state testing. And again, I want to make this real clear. State testing is different than the Common Core. The Common Core are the standards. To opt out of the Common Core would mean to have no curriculum, to have no standards. So to say I don't want my students to be in Common Core would be I don't want my students to be taught how to read and write and speak and listen. I don't want my students to be taught how to count and how to add and find the slope of the line. So that's the Common Core of those standards. When people talk about opting out, they're talking about the state test. And so if students want to opt, if parents want their students to opt out of the state test, there's some provisions that talk about that. Well, the question was, what impact does this have on our district when students are opting out of the state test? And that comes down to accountability for our schools. So you can, how many of you guys have seen the report card, the school report card? Okay, so they should be releasing the new one soon. I can't remember what's the next week. Next week they're going to be releasing, the new school report card from last year. So on the school report card, if a school doesn't test at least 95% of students, it loses 5 points out of 100. Okay, it's a deduction. If it doesn't test at least 85% of students, it loses 10 points. Now this is the scary thing for me. So let's say that you're at Wayne, okay? And 10 students decide that they want to opt out of testing for that year, okay? That puts you under that 85% mark, okay? You lose 10 points. And what happens is our rank for Wayne goes down dramatically. So right now, last year, we were in the top 22% of the state for Wayne, which is fantastic. That's great. That's awesome, all right? If we don't, yeah, and it's gonna go up, right? Yeah, that's right, there. If we don't, if not 85% of students don't take that test, we drop 53 percentage points so that we are now in that lower quarter of the schools, of the elementary schools in the state. If we did that at the Kewaskum Middle School, if we had a 10-point deduction at Kewaskum Middle School, we would be the 4th worst middle school in the state according to the school report cards. That's the impact that will have. Now, in terms of consequences for that, I kind of see two possibilities here. First of all, if you're coming into this district and you're thinking about opting your kids in or opting your students out of this district, having a poor report card could very well impact the number of students who come into our district, which of course then impacts the amount of money that we get. So it does have a financial implication for us. Also, again, it could really kind of impact whether people even want to move into the Kewaskum area, because we know that schools are an important part of people making decisions about where they want to move. The other possibility is that we run the risk of being labeled as a priority or a focus school. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into this, but I just will say, sort of in general terms, that that really changes things significantly for our district in terms of how we spend our money, in terms of staffing, in terms of the school day. It just has a huge impact, and that's a status that stays with us for 4 years. And I've worked with a couple of focus and priority schools, and it is a very, very difficult process. So it's fairly dangerous to kind of run this road of opting students out of testing. That we have to be really, really careful of making sure that we understand what the consequences of those decisions for us as a district, and honestly for us as a community, when it comes to how our schools look for people moving in as well. Data collection is the third point, and final point for me. So the question is, what kind of data is being collected? Smarter Balance, specifically, people asked about, because that's one of the new tests that they're using this year. There's a really nice, clear statement at this particular website right here that talks specifically about the student's privacy. And of course, there's lots of federal and state laws that deal with what kind of information we can collect, that the federal government can collect. But specifically, Smarter Balance says that the consortium will not share identifiable student-level data with the federal government. So there you go. Okay. Aggregated data, sure. It might say, 80% of boys or 70% of girls, or it could give you those big chunks. But in terms of individual student-identified data, it's not going to share that with the federal government. Some of the information it will collect. Things like race, gender, grade level, the school that you attended, ELL, disability, Title I status. It won't collect names of parents. It won't collect email addresses, telephone numbers, social security numbers, addresses, medical, lifestyle, political, biometric information. It's not collecting any of those things. I'll tell you right now, none of our schools are equipped to be able to scan anybody's retina. We don't have the equipment. We don't have the budget to have that equipment. So there won't be any biometric information being collected by us, and we don't have the capability to do that, let alone the desire. So anyway, so that's what Smarter Balance won't collect. In terms of information that school districts send to Madison, again, there's a lot of different reports that we have to send to Madison as kind of our responsibility as a school district. If you want to know exactly what kind of information, there's actually a couple of places you can go to that talk about it. And there's actually some contact information if you want to contact people to get the exact details about that. People asked about this organization called In Bloom, which had gotten some press. In Bloom no longer is in existence, but on top of that, Kewaskum has never had any kind of plans to have any sort of relationship with that organization. So, And that's it. So that's my contact information. I love talking to people. If they have questions, I'm here for you. So please, by all means, email me, call me, set up an appointment. I'd love to walk through some schools with you too, so you can see what's going on. If you want to come to the curriculum night on the 22nd, I'll be there. So if you want to talk to me there, I'm a pretty nice guy. I haven't bitten anyone or anything like that. So I tell terrible jokes. I'm an English teacher, so I like to talk. So that's about the extent of it, but I'm going to turn it over and let you guys sit back up in your spots, unless... So that's it. All right, well, that's my presentation. Thanks, everyone.
I'd like to welcome everyone to Act 2. Was that a better joke, Mike? Was that all right? All right, we are, great job, Mike. We are on to number 12, old business, to consider the 2014-2015 tax levy pursuant to Wisconsin statute 120.12. So, do we have a motion to approve the 2014-2015 tax levy?
I'll make a motion to adopt the tax levy in the amounts of $9,760,527 for operating expenses and capital outlay for the 2014-15 school year, $1,379,254 for debt retirement, and $35,000 for the operations of the Community Services Fund.
Mary Miller with the motion, Craig Sappin with a second. Any discussion? Okay. Have a couple of roll call this. Jean?
Mrs. Sumner? Yes. Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Muriel?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mrs. Milhoffen? Yes. Mr. Langston? Mr. Hanson?
Yes. Okay. Passes 6-0. On to new business, Mr. Fisher.
I'd like to make a motion to approve payroll for August, $1,135,520.69.
Fisher, all roll call, please.
Mr. Fisher? Mrs. Muriel?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mrs. Milhoffen? Yes. Mr. Langston?
Yes.
Mrs. Sumner? Yes. Mr. Hanson?
Yes. Councilman, Mr. Fisher?
I'd like to make a motion to approve accounts payable for $299,940.92.
Second that. Roll call, Jean?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Langston?
Yes.
Mrs. Sumner? Yes. Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes. Okay, as item C, we're going to have Mrs. Carol Worth come up and to explain a little more detail on the temporary borrowing.
page. It says sale results bid tabulation form. What we're talking about tonight is something that the school district does every year at this time. It's something that most school districts in the state do at this time of the year. And this is borrowing short-term for operational purposes of the district. The reason the school district does such a borrowing is because you start your school year on July 1 and you receive most of your revenue after January of 2015. So there is a mismatch in the timing of the receipt of revenues and the fact that you have to continuously pay your bills and your payroll. So therefore, you do what's called a cash flow borrowing. So this year, the district is doing cash flow borrowing in the amount of $2.3 million. And it's a process that we prepare a prospectus on the district, and we send it out to investors and underwriters, and they are required to place a bid. And that was this morning at 11 o'clock. So the first page shows you that there were 3 bids received, with the winning bid from the firm of BOSC Inc. And the net interest rate is 0.4981%. This is the absolute historical lowest rate that the district has ever received. Last year we borrowed $2.7 million at 0.54%. So we are borrowing less because the district's cash position was a little bit stronger at the beginning of the year, and so that's a direct correlation to how much the district borrows. So with that, this is again a short-term borrowing. It will all be repaid, the full $2.3 million in interest at one time on August 28th of 2015. And obviously by that time you will have received your last settlement of taxes in the month of August from this budget year. The very next page is the bid form, which is the document that the underwriters are required to place their bid with. And the calculation at the very bottom shows you that rate of 0.49%. That is followed by a schedule that has the repayment schedule at the top, with what's called a 1% interest rate, which is how they bid it, plus they will also give you a premium, which is over $10,000, and that's what brings that rate back down to the 0.49%. So that's the pricing summary, and that is followed then by the resolution that goes through the steps that gives you the statutory authority. Again, this is a borrowing strictly for the purpose of funding operations. It is called a tax and revenue anticipation note. It pledges the district's taxes and other revenues. And again, it is repaid all at one time. It is tax exempt. So therefore, we go through a calculation that determines under federal tax law what the district can legally borrow. And this year, that calculation amounted to $2.6 million. We typically do not borrow up to the max. So we borrowed enough to get us a cushion of up to $2.3 million. So with that, if there are any questions that I can address?
Carol, this one's working again. I wanted to make sure I spoke into it. The simplistic version is we're going to borrow $2.3 million. It's at less than 0.5% interest. It's going to cost us $10,820.22 to borrow that money for a year. We pay it back in August. That's what we do in short-term borrowing, and that's what gets us through the year so we can meet our payroll needs as that time comes throughout the course of the year. Because like most or many of the school districts in the state, we don't have enough money in our fund balance to cover payroll because we only get paid certain times of the year through the tax levy and from the state.
That is correct, because your fund balance is a working account, and what is happening is that with the school year starting July 1, you're not receiving your revenue until, especially your taxes, that you don't receive until January. You do get some state aid, you get some federal aid in between there, but not enough to make pay all your bills. So what's happening is your fund balance is making those payments for you, and then eventually you get to zero. When you get to zero, it's time you have to do a cash flow borrowing to bring in that money in order to continue to pay your bills until you get those other revenues, and then those revenues are segregated and used to repay this loan.
A common question may be, well, why do we have to short-term borrow? We have a fund balance, as I understand, about $3.7 million. The only way to eliminate the short-term borrowing would be to have a fund balance of $6 million, which would take many years of significant surpluses to get to that figure. And that's why we do have to do annual borrowing. This is where, I believe, the highest fund balance we've had, definitely the highest percentage fund balance to gross revenue that we've ever had, and the lowest interest rate that we've ever been able to borrow on. So Carol's doing a great job with us.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the borrowing? Okay, with that, Gina, looking for another roll call vote, please.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mrs. Millhoffman? Yes. Mr. Lester? I just have a motion to adjourn.
I will be the second. Any discussion then? Now,
Okay, Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mrs. Millhoffman? Yes. Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Mrs. Small? Yes. Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Mary
Yes.
And Mr. Hanson?
yes. Okay, with that, on to the superintendent report.
Thank you, Carol and Julie Thorson. Great job. As much as I think there's a little bit of a note that needs to go along with that. As much as we'd like to take credit sometimes for when things are going well, we can't necessarily take all the credit because it does depend on state aid as far as what the tax levy is going to be and how much we have to short-term borrow and how much we have at the end of a given year. So there are some things that we can control and some things that we can't control. The things that we can control over the last year or so is that we made a conscious effort to make sure that we stayed under budget and that we stayed within our means. And also, as you saw in the annual meeting, we have cut $1.9 million out of our budget over the last 4 years, which will then, it helps lower the amount of money that we borrow. So it's kind of a two-pronged attack of why we went from 2.7 down to $2.3 million needed to borrow, which does save us some money. So thank you very much. And we did ask Carol in our meeting previous to this with the Finance Committee, and I don't know if Jay was going to cover this or not, so I'm stealing your thunder, I apologize. But we have a 17.7% fund balance right now, and the board ultimate goal is to be at 15%, and it can't be below 10. So we are certainly very healthy in that respect. But there is some wiggle room for things as we look to the future and budgetary needs as we move into other years. We are giving you a balanced budget, and that's what the tax levy was off of for this year. So we do plan on giving you a balanced budget for this year. But as we have told you at different meetings throughout the last few months, we are looking at shortfalls again next year and the year after. And sometime we're going to have to look at how we're going to use that money and how we're going to try to make it to the April 2019 when our debt is retired on the elementary school. So more on that to come. But for today and to this year's purposes, we're in good shape. And Carol, thank you very much for working hard, and Julie partnering with her to give us such a great deal. Moving on to the report of the superintendent. The first week, 2 weeks of school, the first day of school went really, really well. And we had an administrative team meeting this morning, and one of the things that I hope to hear every year is staff members coming up and saying, this is the best start of a school year that I can remember, and we had that again this year. So that's a credit to all the hard work that your whole staff, your teachers, your aides, everyone put into this summer to get ready for the first day. It went off like, it wasn't a first day, it could have been the 15th day or the 50th day of the school year. So we went right into the swing of things, and it was a great start to the school year. So for all the 50-plus staff members that are here tonight, thank you very much, one, for coming tonight. It's greatly appreciated to show your support for your Board of Education as they deal with some difficult things. But also, thank you very much for working very hard this summer, getting ready for that first week of school, and having it go as well as it is absolutely good. So if I could, I'd give you a round of applause. Yeah, round of applause. And as our shirts say, it's every day, every child, and that's what we're focused in on. And lots of things going on, but it's every child, every day for us. So moving on to the second part, which has been kind of talked about by Mark a little bit. The board and the district has heard concerns, and we don't want to just dismiss those concerns, but we are here to educate, and educate is what we try to do. And so in the spirit of education, as people and questions come forward, not only is Mark sharing that on a monthly basis and also posting on the website, we have made a commitment to this community that we would like to try to educate them one-on-one, and that's the Kewaskum difference. So as people have questions, we try to answer them individually. Another step in our journey along the way to do this, as far as the Common Core issue is concerned, is our September 22nd curriculum night, starting at 6:30 until 8 in the field house. And we will have numerous tables set up in the field house, starting with a table for 4K, and then each a table for 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. When we get to middle school, we'll have one table for each one of the four core areas, 4 subject areas, 6 through 8. For high school, there'll be one table for the 9 through 12 core areas, and then all grades, CTE, Spanish, art, music, Phy-Ed, counselors. So we'll have a total of 21 tables set up across the field house, and possibly more if there's other things that we'd like to make sure that we get out and promote that night as well. But the gist of it is to have our teachers with our textbooks, the curriculum things that we use, trade books, language studies, sample assessments, supplementary materials, laptops with examples of assessments, including the Smarter Balance sample for ELA and math. So we are committed to try to do everything we can to continue to educate people as best as we can. So we encourage everyone to come on September 22nd. And once again, we thank the teachers that will be joining us that night and the administrators to make that a very spirited, fun, positive, every child, every day type atmosphere, that no question is a bad question. Just come on in and please join us, because we're trying to do everything we can, because we hear that there's differences of opinions out there, and we don't want to just dismiss that. So September 22nd is specifically set up to answer questions, to kind of dovetail on what Mark is doing on a month-to-month basis. Also in your packet tonight, board members, you saw the strategic plan, and we talked about that a little bit at the last board meeting, and we wanted to make sure that you had one more chance to take a look at it and make sure that that's what you gave us. And for those of you that haven't heard this before, there was a board retreat in July, and we met with the board and the administrative team for 4 hours in July, and we went over what we wanted the goals and what the planning would be, and we based it off of what we heard from the board members and also from our community members through our school's perception survey. So this strategic plan is based off of the input we got from the community and the input we've gotten from the board, and we've broken it into different categories and truly trying to start a baseline, because this is something new for us. So we have a baseline of things, and that will be on the website. Hopefully we'll have that up tomorrow for everyone to take a look at those different areas and make sure that that's what we'll be working off of and striving to meet those goals for this year. So board, if there isn't any questions, we will plan on getting that up and start updating you on a monthly basis on how we're doing towards the strategic plan. Also, in the mail, and thank you very much to Mr. Andrew Keelan, Statesman, for partnering us on this initiative. This is something we brought back a year ago. We put the annual, it used to be an annual newsletter, and it's now a semi-annual newsletter. And I think that it's the best newsletter that we've ever had. And a lot of that goes to Carol Gonwell, who's sitting out here. So thank you very much, Carol, for all your hard work on this. It gets better every year. And thanks for everyone that put effort into this and made this a great newsletter. If someone out there hasn't got one, please call the district office and we will make sure that we send you one, because it's an awesome, awesome newsletter talking about this Kewaskum difference. So thank you very much. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Scalzo. Next up, we have Julie Thorson with the business manager report.
I'll just talk loud. This is a new year, same reports as last year, nothing new. We're starting all over again. The only thing I wanted to point out to you tonight was we included, yet again, the budget development timeline. This was first presented to you in January, and nothing's changed that, it's the same as the beginning. But you're gonna look at the second page of it and realize that most of our activity for the budget comes in the next page. And I also want to remind you that we will need to do a board meeting at the end of October. We had it set up as October 27th in January. That's something special. Remember, we don't get our numbers in, our certifications until the 15th. So we need time after the 15th to update the numbers and then get it to you to present before the vote. Any questions? The 27th?
It would just be a specific meeting that night, suggest approve it, so usually it's a pretty short meeting. We can do that at the district office, if that meets the needs, it's probably easier just to meet there. Normal time is 6 o'clock, that's okay with everybody?
Thank you, Julie. Next up, we have Mrs. Chapman with the People Services report.
Okay. Tonight I'm presenting the 2013-2014 Seclusion and Restraint Annual Data Report. According to Wisconsin law, and for seclusion and restraint, each school district has to report out annually the numbers of incidents they have as far as seclusion and restraint.
She is able to train anyone in our district. We do all of our support staff prior to school starting, and then throughout the year she'll be hosting trainings. There is an autism-specific training that we do, that she's also trained in doing. We'll do that throughout the year. One of the nice things we do is I just received an email from the Director of People Services in Mayville. We will try to coordinate too for other districts that aren't as fortunate as ours that don't have a trainer on staff. So yes, we are very fortunate here to have that. I have another item I'd like to just share with you, just a piece of information. One of the things that we're venturing on this year, it's a little different than we've done in the past as far as our child-find activities. We will be having Child Development Days, and the first one is coming up on September 26th. What that is we're hoping to find, we have a requirement under Child Find to have some public awareness activities where we're looking to see if there are students that maybe aren't developing as quite as they should be. And we can do that as young as 2.9 months old. So what we're going to do is do these screenings for 3-year-olds or close to 3-year-olds, and we are disseminating information to our local pediatricians. We're putting it out in our libraries. You'll all be seeing these beautiful posters that Sarah, our school site, designed and we printed here. So those will be around. I'll pass it around so you can see. But we're hoping what we can do is find some of those kiddos that are out there and get to them so that those early interventions can take place, so that they're better prepared when they do start with us in our school district. So I will pass that around. If you have any questions on that, feel free to give me a call or talk with me after. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane, appreciate it. Next up, we have Mr. Gates. Charter school, we're very excited about the grant of $150,000 plus another $50,000. I can share a quick story. My wife is in real estate, and we actually have a relocation from Michigan who is seeking out Kewaskum School District over Slinger, over West Bend, over our neighboring districts because of the things that are going on at Kewaskum, including the charter school. So this is these are people who can choose to live wherever they want to live, and they're choosing what looks to be a pretty kind of home you buy and live in for quite some time here in this area through the hard work that's been done by the staff here at this charter school up and running. So, well, kudos to what you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. Just a real quick update. I don't have a whole lot for you tonight, but a couple things, the grant revisions that I've been working on those. I've been working on revising the budget, and I've been talking with Heather from WISN. She's our main go-to person. She's been very supportive. Is it over?
You're good.
Okay, so we're moving along very good there. I'm mostly complete with the revisions. The budget piece, and I could have submitted it to the DPI already because they don't ask for what we're really spending it on, but for my purposes, for our purposes, I really want to go through and make sure we're putting, because we do have to allocate for different areas, and I want to make sure we have that all set. The other big thing from WISN is they helped us prepare a planning document. So I have a 6-page planning document that goes through month by month, all the way through to next summer of where we're going to be and what we need to be checking off as we move through this process. Tomorrow night we have an innovation team, planning team committee meeting. We're going to be meeting, I'm going to share this timeline with them. I'm going to share the updates of what I had that I've done for the grant revisions and the budget, and get their input. Got a few more meetings with WISN, making sure we're on the right track. And we'll probably have another planning committee meeting later this month. So next month I should have a lot to present to you as far as where we're at. Any questions or anything?
Joel, who's on the planning committee?
Right now we have a couple parents from Wayne that was,
We don't need names, that's fine.
yeah, there's a few parents from Wayne, there's a homeschool parent, there's somebody that's got a kid in Kewaskum, a couple teachers, we got a couple people involved. I'm looking to get more people as far as, because we got to establish a governance board. I'm trying to get somebody from, possibly from Marine Park Technical College, somebody from BWWC, just to brainstorm some options. I've been looking at other charter schools and who they have on their governance boards to see how they're established. And a lot of my questions to Heather at WISN is, what do we got to do for this governance board? So I think that's a key piece. We do have a little bit of time to get that established and make sure we do it right.
So we affectionately have our Heather from Kewaskum, and then we have our Heather from WISN, because when we talk about it, we go, well, Heather said this, what about, how does she know that? And we all know from WISN. Just to piggyback very simply then, the goal for this couple of weeks is to meet with the planning group tomorrow night. We're having a meeting with the Little Chute School District folks on Wednesday morning, Joel and I, to talk about, they just went through this process a couple of years ago, and so they're like a year ahead of us, so we can glean from them what to do and what not to do. So we'll have that. So the big thing is by the end of this month, just to reiterate, is we have to have a pretty good idea of that governance board and what that's gonna look like and who we're gonna want on it. And it's going to be not just parents, it's not gonna just be administrators, it can't be board members, and so we're gonna really flush that out and make sure that we're ready to rock and roll on that by the end of October, or for sure in November with the governance board. But also we have to have that refined budget into them by the end of the month.
Yes, and that's pretty much, I'm pretty much done with that. It's just a matter of finishing a few things and setting that up, so we're good to go there. All right, thank you.
Thanks so much, Joel. Next up, we have Mr. Ross, high school president, with the ACT test results.
Okay, some information was included in the board packet, but there's a document that James passed around that can provide you with a bit more information on what was included in that packet from ECT. The table that you're going to find, there is information that is the same in terms of 5-year trends, but there's also ways to identify such things, percentage of students that have been tested over the course of the last 5 years. You have a sense as far as what's happened there, that tends to get typical questions. And also, what are some things that have been done and what we're currently doing to try to continue to improve the results of our students on the ACT. First of all, I'm happy to report that the results of our students from last year's graduating class were the highest ACT results we've had over the course of the last 5 years. That being said, we're still not where we want to be. We're still below the state average, which, in the mind of our staff, is not acceptable at this point in time. But the increases that we saw over the course of the 2013-14 school year were statistically significant. We see jumps anywhere between 0.7 and 0.9 in just about all areas. Science was a situation where we're actually above the state average, and the other 4 areas where we need to continue to improve. Some of the reasons for the increases and things that we know we need to continue to do, we need to focus on increasing the rigor of our curriculum. One of the changes that we made for this coming year is all freshmen now are taking biology at the freshman level as opposed to the sophomore level, so recognizing recommendations made by the college board that college and career readiness includes numeric science, sequence includes biology, chemistry, and physics. We made that adjustment. Our English staff in the summer of 2013 made some significant revisions to the curriculum, which we believe are having a positive impact on our academic achievement of our students. We also recognize the need to increase the rigor of our math, and that last year included shifting pre-algebra to the middle school level, and conversations already underway to make some adjustments to offer algebra and have that completed prior to arrival at the high school level. Again, recognizing what kids need now compared to what they need to years ago has changed. It's incumbent upon us to make sure we're providing kids with those opportunities that they can dig deeper into the curriculum, have access to more advanced coursework, and the potential of college credit prior to the credit of Kewaskum High School. Obviously, quality instruction is a huge piece of that. Mark Rosado and myself continue to work with our staff on
necessary interventions prior to that March 3rd testing date. Anytime you implement a test and you notice the number of students who have been tested on the ACT up to this point, this past year was about 55% of our graduating class. This coming year we expect close to 100% participation. The expectation and what transpired in the state of Illinois when that was adopted down there on a statewide testing basis was a 2-point drop in the composite ACT score. So while we might expect there to be a drop, we are trying to do everything we can to make sure that if there is a drop, it is minimal and certainly not a 2-point drop. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, really glad to see the ACT prep right in the school. I think that's something that's really important to get these kids on track to find out what they're dealing with. The ACT is not a pretend test. So they're definitely heading in the right direction. And as you're saying, as the percentage rises, everyone is in the same boat. Every high school in the state is where we're at. So what we just want to do is beat our fears. That's the goal. Anything else? Thank you very much, Bill.
Bill, I would just add to your report that it's very significant as you look at the number of classes that people take. If they take a rigorous set of classes in high school, looking at the statistics, they jump up 1.5 to 2 points. So if the kids, all the kids that took the ACT would have taken general science, biology, chemistry, and physics, the average score would have been 23.4 instead of 22. The difference between kids that take a minimum amount of math, less than 3 years of math, which I don't know how they can take less than 3 years here, but I guess there must have been some kids. But for the most part, all our kids take 3 years of math versus taking more than 3 years of math. It goes up 2 points. So the goal is to push them, to get them into those higher level courses. And the people here, once again, the 50+ staff members that are here have recognized that over the last couple of years, and you can see the results are starting to happen. So we need to, K through 12, keep on having these higher expectations for these kids across all grade levels. So once again, thank you to all the staff members that are here. These statistics prove out that you're doing a great job, and we're just going to keep pushing harder and harder every day.
Yeah, I would concur with that from the standpoint that it would be easy to look at this from a casual observer and say, well, what happened with the increase in results is just because of high school staff. It's not because of that. You can't get that type of results in a single year. These are results that have been taking place over the course of time throughout the student's K-12 education experience. So there's been a shift that's been taking place in recent years K-12, and that is starting to contribute to the increase in results. And so I think it's a credit to all the staff, K-12, not just high school staff.
Yeah, it's definitely building blocks, and also the lottery system, which is going to go into place, which rewards the kids for taking the tougher courses. Again, it puts the carrot out there for them to really get a chance to move up the line, even the tougher courses that it wasn't there before. So the committee, you guys are putting that in place quickly.
An incidental story with my one daughter who took stats her junior year. And so she had no problem because there was stats on the ACT. And her friend was not taking it until her senior year, and she was at a complete loss. And there was a big disparity, like over 10 points in their ACT scores. And so my daughter helped her with stats and different things so that when she retook the test, that she could do much better. So it also depends on when these kids are taking the courses, and to set it back earlier that they're taking some of these courses is really important.
Well, and one of the things that's stressed with regards to the ACT, I know there's a tendency to think, well, we're just trying to push college readiness, and it's not about just that, it's college anchor readiness, but also making sure that students who would otherwise realize that college is accessible to them. They might find out taking ACT that it is accessible. And the better you do on the ACT is not just a ticket into higher levels, so to speak, colleges and post-secondary institutions, it's also a money saver, because based upon the ACT score you get, and those of you who are parents of students who have gone through college already, or soon to be recognized as, there's a chance for additional scholarship money and financial aid based upon the ACT score. So this is intended to keep the money in the pockets of our community members and our parents, as opposed to laying it out for the post-secondary institutions. Yet their students will still be able to benefit from that experience. So it's a win-win for everybody.
So when you get to the point of
policies. And I did give every board member and also the 2 community members on policy committee a listing of the different changes or corrections or so on that we found going through the policies prior to our meeting. So I will do this to keep everybody up to date, and then this will also then go to Neola, and we're going through each and every policy with a fine-tooth comb, thanks to Craig, who's really excellent at picking out little details which are wonderful. Thank you. So I will continue to do that, and so the next meeting will be before our board meeting, and we are starting on the 5,000s. So, and then I wanted to make mention, because at the annual meeting, Jim Leister had asked when the board approved Common Core standards. This was reviewed in policy 2210 with Neola, and it did come to the board because we added some things, and the board decided that, this is the statement, consistent with 118.30 Wisconsin statutes, we will incorporate at a minimum state recommended performance standards for students as the basis for determining how well each student is achieving curriculum objectives. That did come to the full board. It was not called Common Core, it was called Wisconsin, or the state recommended performance standards. So our committee at that time wanted it to come to the full board, and that was the decision of the full board, so that's in policy.
Thank you, Mary. Do you have anything on finance, Jay?
No, I don't. I just want to thank Tim Rosen and Kevin Bartel for being part of the financial committee. Julie, it's nice when we have community members that step up and help us out, so thank you for that. You're doing a nice job on the finance committee.
Okay, now we have coming down the stairs, Mr. Doug Franzen.
Tying this report off the last month's report from August 11th, we finished up strong with the summer cleaning. The cleaning ended at the high school and the band and choir rooms. We were able to have enough time to clean the fleet inside and out again. Time allowed me to get all my staff back to the original building the week the week before school started. What good this caused, this allowed for educators to get their work orders in and get the custodians were able to complete prior to opening day. It was a great start on Tuesday, September 2nd. I am proud to be part of the Kewaskum difference. I'm going to read an email sent out by Jeff Richter about his first day experience. Jeff is a morning shift custodian support at the Wayne Elementary School. This email was titled, Wonders of Wayne. Good morning to all. What a great start to the year. For those who don't know me, I'm the day custodian at Wayne. My daughter started 4K this year here at Wayne. I want to share a quick story. The first day of school, my daughter was so excited. I was able to greet her as she got off the bus to come into school. I told her to make sure she gets to her class. Being a parent, I watched as she went down the hall. She went past her class all the way to the end of the hall. At first, I wanted to get her, but wanted to see if she would turn around. She just stood there, and to my surprise, as I was about to go down the hall, 3 older students went to her, talked to her, and walked her back down the hall to her class. I have to say my heart filled. I feel very blessed to work in the district and not only work with wonderful staff, but also to be around such wonderful students. We should all feel great about what we are doing with the Kewaskum students in the district. Jeff Richter, Kewaskum School District, Wayne Elementary Custodian. Emma Menzel was an employee that worked for me over the summer. I'm going to read what Emma wrote about her work experience here. I have a great time working at Kewaskum High School this summer. I learned a lot of things, especially about a lot of programs. I learned how to use a lot of online programs such as Infinite, which is our door controller system, the Help Desk, which is our work order system,
Safe Schools, which is the program that all teachers and all my staff use for training, and Skyward. Not for the students Skyward, but the staff Skyward, the business Skyward. I learned how to set up templates for help desk, and that will be very useful knowledge for later in my life. I inputted a lot of data from paper to online. I helped Doug organize a lot of files and organize his office. Another program I learned to use was Simple K. Simple K is the programs we use to track keys. That program is for key inventory. I did a core survey, which basically was when I went to all the schools and looked at all the key locks and their codes that would match with the key to be distributed to the teachers. I inputted that data into Simple K and what teachers have, what key. I feel I have helped Doug a lot, which he did, especially with the setting up of programs. Although I didn't only learn things from the programs I worked with, I also learned how to improve my public relations skills and learned quite a bit about professionalism within the job. I've always been able to hone my organizational skills, and I haven't been working here with Doug and all of the custodians. Emma Menzel. Last but not least, we will resume the Buildings and Grounds Committee on October 13th at 5:30 in the Rolls Hall Library. Topics of discussion will be the Phase 2 Grounds Project, equipment upgrades, the utility report, building repairs, and then the standardized agenda.
Great. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's been a lot of new things. Thanks for relaying those stories, Doug. Definitely saw a big difference, especially at the end of summer. This place really looked great. I spent an inordinate amount of time in the field house because of my kids, and really saw a huge difference there in that KMS floor. I'm not sure how you brought that thing back to life, but you did. So, a lot of positive things. Setting up what you just talked about, the service school. I love seeing so much Facebook, so much Twitter, so much email. The communication is out there. It seems like KSD is everywhere, and that's the kind of thing we need to have. So people know what's going on. People are aware. You don't hear as much since I've been on board when you have to just know. I didn't know. Okay, so I think we're doing a better job. We want to keep that up so the parents and community feel like they're part of this and they understand what's going on. So thank you all for attending. At this point, I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session.
To adjourn to closed session.
We will resume in closed session in 2 minutes. Motion to go into closed session.
Just see a great support for you too. Well, you can't imagine my surprise when I got home from vacation and saw your name on the. I think you'll do a great job. Oh, I do. I know. I'm lucky to have you. But are you?
Jen, I can't.
Story.
Okay, bye, Ellen.
Give me a call.